For decades, all of this was off limits to Americans. Now, tens of thousands are travelling to Cuba each year to sample a once forbidden land. There's no sea and sand for them here, though. The tours are licensed by the US Treasury, so an educational stop at a local farmer's market is in, but mojitos on the beach strictly out. The whole idea is to allow Americans to interact with Cubans and their culture. As unofficial ambassadors, the logic goes, they'll spread notions of democracy and the free market. But it seems it's the Americans who've been learning most lessons here. Whilst most arrive describing communist Cuba as repressive, a new survey says that most leave seeing a system that's failing instead. And 88% leave here less likely to support US sanctions against Cuba, an economic embargo that's been the cornerstone of their government's policy for 5 decades.
I think the U.S.-Cuban relations should be open. People should be talking to each other. People should be sharing. We have a whole free trade system going on between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada without economic borders. And we have this tiny little island that is of no threat to the U.S. That we're isolating from the world doesn't make sense.
The idea that Cubans are full of hatred for Americans is another myth busted. People and politics are very different here.
I think American people are like Cuban people. They care and love and want to communicate. We're all missing this chance of receiving that warmth so we can understand each other better. We're neighbours after all.
Critics say all of this is surface deep. Cuba showing its best face to the US visitors and controlling their agenda. The difficulties of daily life, though, are impossible to obscure here. And yet, whatever they pass on to the Cubans, it seems that most Americans leave Cuba with their own eyes opened too, and believing that isolating their neighbour is no longer the answer. Sarah Rainsford, BBC News, Havana.